Hello students, in the previous class I have been explaining to you family as an institution and also why social institutions are important in our social life. In this class we are going to study another important and interesting topic, which is marriage. Marriage is also another important social institution in our society. That is what we are going to study in this class. Marriage is one of the universal social institutions which admit men and women to family life. It is a stable relationship in which a man and a woman are socially permitted to have children, implying the right to sexual relations. Marriage is closely connected with the institution of family. In fact, family and marriage are complementary to each other. In this class, I am going to explain to you what we mean by marriage. I will give you some definitions of marriage and explain the characteristic features and functions of marriage, and next to that I will give some examples of marriage that are prevalent in different society all over the world. Now we will see the definition of marriage. Gillen and Jelen have said that marriage is a socially approved way of establishing family of procreation. Westermarck has remarked that marriage is rooted in the family rather than the family in marriage. According to Mazumdar, marriage is a socially sanctioned union of male and female, or as a secondary institution devised by society to sanction the union and mating of male and female for the purposes of establishing a household, entering into sex relations, procreating and providing care for the offsprings. According to Beals and Hojer, marriage is a set of cultural patterns to sanction parenthood and to provide a stable background for the care and the rearing of the children. It is an important cultural mechanism to ensure the continuation of the social group based on kinship. Robert H. Louis defines marriage as a relatively permanent bond between permissible mates. Now I will explain some characteristic features of marriage. 1. Marriage is found to be more or less a universal institution. All societies adopt some form of rules for the union of male and female. The pattern or form might differ, but it is universal. For example, in Japan, celibacy is publicly condemned. In Korea, unmarried individuals are called half persons. Among the Hindus, marriage is considered as a sacrament which is regarded as more or less obligatory to procreate and attain salvation by a person in his life. 2. Marriage is a union of man and woman. It indicates a long lasting bond between the husband and wife. 3. Social approval is required for a man and woman to become a husband and wife to exercise the functions. 4. Marriage gets its social recognition through some form of civil or religious ceremony. The ceremony has its own rites, rituals, customs, formalities, etc., that might differ from society to society. 5. Marriage unites the man and woman as husband and wife. It permits them to perform certain rights, duties and support each other and also their children. What are the functions of marriage? Marriage is a powerful instrument in regulating the sex life of man. It prohibits certain types of sex relations also. For example, father and daughter, mother and son, brother and sister are not permitted to have sexual relationship in any form of society. This kind of prohibition is called incest taboo. Marriage is a social approval for getting involved in sexual relations of procreation and thus leads to the establishment of the family. Marriage creates mutual understanding and cooperation between the husband and wife as a couple to perform the household tasks. Marriage provides economic cooperation. And finally, marriage contributes for the emotional and intellectual support. There are several types of marriages which one could observe in different parts of the world. Depending upon the culture, depending upon the geographic condition, depending upon the practices of each society, the types of marriage differ. Now, we will see different types of marriages one could observe in different parts of the world. Marriage is an institution of society which can have very different implications in different cultures. Based on the culture and nature of economic activities, the marriage type varies. Monogamy and polygamy are the main forms of marriage found around the world. Monogamy refers to one man marrying one woman at a time. Polygamy is the type in which a man or woman has more than one spouse. There are two main forms found in polygamy. They are polygyny and polyandry. Polygyny: if a man marries two or more wives at a time, it is known as polygyny. For example, Eskimo tribes, African Negroes. Polygyny is of two types, namely sororal polygyny and non-sororal polygyny. In sororal polygyny, the wives of the man are sisters. In the case of non-sororal polygyny, the man marries many women who are not sisters. The purpose for any kind of polygyny is scarcity of men in the group or childlessness. The next one is polyandry. Polyandry refers to one woman entering into marital relationship with more than one man at a given time. This form of marriage further exists in two categories: fraternal polyandry and non-fraternal polyandry. Fraternal polyandry is used to refer to a woman marrying and becoming the wife of all brothers of a family. The children they beget are treated as the offsprings of the eldest brother. For fraternal polyandry, I can give you two examples, one from tribal society and another from Hindu mythology. Among Todas, there is the practice of fraternal polyandry. Todas have the practice of female infanticide, and therefore, at one point of time there was scarcity of women, and naturally they had to resort for fraternal polyandry. When a girl is married to a boy, naturally she is married to all the brothers. She has to go to his husband's family and cohabit and bear children for all the brothers. In the case of Hindu mythology, we could quote an example from Mahabharata. The marriage between Pandavas and Draupadi can be given as an example for fraternal polyandry. Whereas, in the form of non-fraternal polyandry, one woman has many husbands with whom she cohabits in turns, but it is not necessary that these husbands be brothers. The causes for polyandry is scarcity of women population or heavy bride price. Similarly, rules have been made in all societies to regulate the individuals to select a mate. There are two types of marital regulations found in all societies. They are endogamy and exogamy. What is endogamy? Hobel defined endogamy as the social rule that requires a person to marry within a culturally defined group of which he is a member. It refers to the system of rules which restrict marriage within prescribed limits. In other words, the rules of endogamy makes marriage compulsory within a particular group. In Hindu society, caste is an endogamous group. A Hindu can marry someone within his or her own caste. There are various endogamous groups, of which caste group is the most important one. Besides caste endogamy, village endogamy is also found in some parts of Asian and American societies. The next one is exogamy. Exogamy is defined as the social rule that requires an individual to marry outside of a culturally defined group of which he is a member. In Hindu society, the marriage between members of the same gotra and lineage are prohibited. One must marry outside his own family and kin group. It is believed that the members are descended from one common ancestor and therefore, they are consanguinely related. Almost all the tribes of India practice lineage and clan exogamy. Some tribes like Baroja of Orissa practice village exogamy, which means they do not marry a person within his own village. The village boundary is the mark here. He has to seek a bride or the bridegroom from outside his own village. The term companionate marriage is used to refer the marriage of two persons on the understanding that they have no children. They live together just for the sake of companionship. In this form, the marriage may be dissolved simply by mutual consent. Now, I will explain some of the types of marriages followed by the tribal people. Tribal marriages differ totally from the practice of advanced societies. The tribal societies follow different forms like marriage by service, marriage by capture, marriage by elopement and marriage by exchange. The marriage by purchase, then marriage by probation, marriage by intrusion and marriage by trial. Marriage by mutual consent, the first one is marriage by service. It is a peculiar practice among the tribal people for marrying a person by doing service to the father-in-law. The boy, when he wants to marry a girl, he goes to the girl's father's house and serves for him for a while. When the girl's father accepts him and appreciates him for his work, then the marriage is fixed. The second one is marriage by capture. In tribal communities, a boy could marry a girl just by capturing her when she is going to the temple or to any place in the forest and marry her. This is called marriage by capture. The next one is marriage by elopement, by which we understand that the boys and the girls have the freedom to select their own partner. When they do so, they have a subtle permission to elope from their own society and get into the forest, after which the parents and the other members of the society come in search of them and then the marriage is arranged for them. The next one is marriage by exchange, which is very simple. In this type, the boy is expected to give some gifts to the girl's parents because he is taking the girl from this family. We call this marriage by exchange. The next type of marriage is marriage by probation, which is a peculiar feature in tribal marriage. Under this type of marriage, the boy and the girl are permitted to marry together for some time, and if they like to continue this relationship, they are permitted to marry. Another interesting type of marriage is marriage by trial. There is a peculiar custom among the tribals which explains that when the tribal people have certain functions, then the boys are asked to perform some games of valor and they have to prove their courage. At that point only, the girls accept to marry the boy who has won the game. This is called marriage by trial. The next one is marriage by mutual consent, which is almost the same as the love marriage, which is prevalent in the present society. All these marriages are institutionalized and they serve certain important regulative purposes. In modern marriages, people expect more gratification from marriage than they had in the past. It is not enough for the husband to be a decent man providing livelihood for his wife and children, but also be an educated person, good homemaker and share love with his wife. Similarly, the husband expects his wife not only to be a good homemaker, but also be educated, share economic burden and also share love. Both married partners want their own special interests and activities to be continued and respected even after their marriage. Dear students, so far I have been explaining to you different types of marriages that are explained in the book. But more than this, something is happening in the external world. That is, due to globalization and modernization, tremendous changes are taking place in the institution called marriage. Nowadays, people of marriageable age, for several reasons, they want to have their own choice. The young people get very good education, they migrate to different parts of the world and therefore, they prefer to have their own decisions in selecting their own mate. Sometimes they do not have any consideration for the caste background or the economic background or even their own parents' consent in making a choice of their family life. Sometimes they are attracted by the person of the other sex due to their intellectual capacity. At that point, they never take into consideration any other factor like the background or their parents' consent. They go for love marriages. Nowadays, in the present society, we observe lots of love marriages taking place. This is not the end. When love marriages take place, correspondingly we will find many other changes in the residence also. Once people want to go for love marriages, they do not prefer to have a matrilocal residence or patrilocal residence. Definitely, they prefer to have a neolocal residence. They select a place of their own and set their own family. Therefore, in the present world, apart from the already explained and prevailing patterns of marriages, some new type of marriages are also prevalent now. I am going to ask you certain questions. Question number 1, explain how marriage serves as an institution. 2, describe different types of marriages that prevail in our society. Yes, students, I am sure that this lesson is very interesting to you. I explained to you in this lesson what we mean by marriage sociologically, some definitions of marriage. Then I explained to you the characteristic features and functions of marriage. In the second part, many examples are given for different types of marriages prevailing in different parts of the world. We will see in the next class.